Hey everybody, oh my God, thank you for coming over to my loft, virtually that is, almost social distancing style. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alixx Shotland. I'm a producer and actor and your host today of Chango Meetup Live. I'm going to also give you a sneak peek of Chango's Unfiltered Reality podcast hosted by Chango. Today's topic, how to run your business like a drug kingpin. I know, seeing a few eyebrows virtually raised through the phones. But you know what? Let's get curious together. Let's get a little uncomfortable. After all, it's Friday. And who said we have to continue to stay in our lane, right? So before I get started and dig into these questions, Chango and I wanted to mention something to all of you. You know, his feature film, his documentary, this podcast series, well, it's important for everybody to know that we're not looking to glamorize the drug game, yet we're looking to inspire youth of America today to stay away from drugs. Now, I promise I'm not going to get too preachy. So I'm going to turn it over to the man of the hour, the former head of Yellow Top Crew, my friend and producing partner, Chango.
Hey, dímelo Kentucky Fried Chicken.
How you feeling today, Chango?
I'm all right. It's Friday. I love Fridays.
Yes, yes. Why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, for those who don't know?
All right. I'm single, number one. Number two, I'm just a dude that's trying to do right from his wrongs. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. So this film, the podcast, everything that we do, it's not glorifying the game. It's actually trying to deter people from joining drug gangs or joining crime in general. Yeah. So that's the message that's going to come with every project. It's not going to be a typical gangster story.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's what drew me to this project. So I'm going to ask him a few questions, and let's see what we go. So it was rumored that a famous New York district attorney compared the way that you ran Yellow Top Crack in the 90s to a Fortune 500 company. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. That was Robert Morgenthau, and I think that was a quote from the New York Times.
Wow, okay.
And the Fortune 500 company he was referring to was Johnson & Johnson. His quote was that had they listened or had they had us as employees of their company, they would have been more successful than they already were. Tito and I, at that age, you know. It was a compliment one way or the other.
Yeah, I think so. And for those who don't know who Tito is...
Tito was my partner in the Yellow Top Crew.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of buzzwords in corporate culture today, like marketing, target demographic, you know,
same
brand
thing.
building. Could you tell everybody a little bit about how you built your brand, Yellow Top Crack?
Well, in order to build Yellow Top Crack, what we had to do was establish that only we would be using that color in every neighborhood that we set up a shop in. And so that way, all the clientele that was looking for pure substance, they would know they had to look for yellow, and there's only one group selling yellow, and that was a way to brand. And as far as getting everybody to just follow suit with that plan, to be honest, we were just ruthless and used a lot of violence in order to do that.
Okay. Well, what about advertising? You know, in today's culture, you know, there's social media, there's all kinds of ways to advertising. You know, we're talking about back in the 90s, New York City, Mayor Dinkins, the height of the crack epidemic up in Manhattan Valley, if you will. So what were your ways? How did you advertise your brand?
Different ways. We used different men in different areas and different blocks that would have yellow jumpsuits on, and they would direct customers from other crowds and other businesses to us. We would have tasting parties, which consisted of giving out 2,000 or 3,000 vials for free to customers so that they could get addicted to what we had, the newest flavor, the newest batch. We had, every night was like a different segment or a different theme. Today's buy one, get one free. Tomorrow, what Purple Top is selling for $5, we'll sell it for $2.
So you undercut your competition.
At all times
At all times, okay.
In order to, I think for any business, and you know what, Jeff Bezos uses this now today, That's how he built Amazon, by making sure to lose in the beginning. And that's what we did back then, without Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, well, not too different, except for you were an illegal crime operation.
Well, who's to say that his operation is not also illegal and therefore is a criminal
Okay,
enterprise?
interesting point of view there.
There's plenty of people complaining.
So, what did you do as far as, what did you feel like the challenges were back in the day, building your brand? What was your everyday challenges?
Everyday challenge was trying to, at the same time that you're trying to stay alive, you're trying to stay out of jail. In order to stay alive, you had to carry metal on you every day, meaning a pistol and a bulletproof vest. So you are walking crime. You know, you got about 2 felonies while you're walking around just to live and to stay alive. That's pretty hectic at that age. But at the same time, you got to worry about the police.
Right.
And you still have to worry about the narcs because you have a narcotics operation. And then you also have to worry about homicide because you're laying people down. And so that was a constant worry every day. That never ended. It was always there.
That's it. Wow. So did you have any cops on your payroll back then?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And was that challenging for you to have an inside person?
It was actually beneficial, you know. We knew about witnesses. We knew about pending raids. We knew about witnesses. We knew addresses. We knew about grand jury dates. We knew whatever
So
he
you
knew.
had the inside
we
scoop.
knew.
Yeah. And how did you come up with your target demographic? Like who to market your drugs to?
Well, we didn't come up with a demographic at all. It was already there, you know. And in the worst ghetto, there's the most amount of money. And this
That's
is
kind of surprising to me because I would never know that
Well,
the worst
sure.
ghetto had the most amount of money.
Sure, it's underground real estate. It's in the worst ghetto where there's a lot of poverty and people trying to escape one thing or the other, including pain or trauma. They're going to be indulging in drugs. And if you got that neighborhood, you got the market.
Right, so you cornered the market by taking certain neighborhoods and focusing on those neighborhoods. Not too different than, you know, modern corporations today.
Not at all.
So let me ask you this. This is kind of interesting. Like right now, there's this whole crazy social media thing happening. There's iPhones, there's Androids. Like, what do you think would have been different for you as a drug kingpin back in the 90s? Because you didn't have phones back then.
I would have made my movie back then.
All right. You know what? We've got all these business questions, but you know what? I want to ask you a few questions like about your life and what your dreams are for the future. Right now, we've got a feature film that we're developing. We've got a documentary that we're developing, and this amazing podcast series, Unfiltered Reality, hosted by Chango, that's live on Spotify, Pandora, I think Google Play, iHeart's coming down the pike. Thank you, Mike Johns. And, you know, all of those podcasts that we've done so far have been pre-recorded podcasts. Some of them have been. And they focus on your past, the stories of Yellow Top Crack, the stories of inmates that you helped exonerate, you know, your partner Tito, your sister Lourdes that died of crack cocaine. But
She didn't die of crack cocaine.
what AIDS? She died of AIDS, but from the crack that she, right?
Yes.
Okay. I know it's painful. But I guess my question to you would be that, you know, since you've already told all those stories, right? What is next for our brand new series of podcasts? Because we're going to be filming new podcast at the end of June, early July, for Unfiltered Reality, hosted by Chango. So what are your dreams, and what is the vision you can tell everybody about for that?
Well, we're going to do a little bit of everything, spice it up, similar to how we used to do back in the days, and have different themes for different nights. So some interviews, some debating, different themes, crime, current events, strippers.
I know.
Strippers,
He wants the strippers, and that special guest that he told me that he wanted was a Instagram star, something Sky. What is it?
Forget about that.
Okay.
That's between me and you.
Okay, sorry. I don't know. I thought you wanted me to ask if she could come on our show, but
Well, yeah, I might want you to, but I might want to pretend like I don't.
okay. So sorry about that, but anyway. So after we finish shooting the feature film Chango and the documentary, my question for you is, when people leave the theater or they leave their couch or they put down their phone, what is the message that you want them to take away with you?
Well, first of all, shout out to Sway and Spiff TV. That's Sway Mendez. I think that the message is going to be clear because, God willing, that's who we will be working with to put the message out there. The message is just a message of resilience, I guess, that you could come back from anything. You could come back from yellow top, you could come back from crime, you could come back from addiction, you could come back from a divorce, depression, you could come back from a flat line, you could come back from the death penalty, alcoholism, everything.
Yeah.
So, what you've done then doesn't count now. It's what you're trying to do now that counts. So, man could come back from anything. I'm trying to come back and be the Martin that I was supposed to be back then. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. Second chances, second chances are really important. So when I'm thinking about like the future and I'm thinking about the past, I know that you served some time in some of the most dangerous prisons. I know you served time at Dannemora.
Yeah.
And I know that because we've been spending a lot of time together, I've learned
Lucky you.
so much. Yeah, lucky me. I've learned so much. And one of the questions I have for you, and I'm sure everyone out there wants to know, is like, how did you make it through prison? And I know that you helped exonerate a very famous bunch, 5 guys, very famous. So do you want to talk a little bit about the good things that you did in prison?
We could talk a little bit about it.
Just a little bit.
I have a hard time with the word good and prison in the same sentence, but...
Okay, but I know that you started a library program.
I started a library program in Clinton, yeah. I got books donated to the facility from different lawyers, different people that I knew that they were going to probably discard. A lot of lawyers, legal books, to send it to the facility. It didn't last as long as I wanted it to. I wanted it to still be there today, because it was a footprint. That's the footprint that I would have left there. In different places, you do different things, that's how you could remember the time.
Yeah.
So that was in Clinton. I was in Clinton also when I helped to exonerate the Central Park 5.
Yeah. That's something that fascinated me when he told me that. God, I think like a year and a half ago when we had coffee and you told me that.
But I met a lot of interesting people up there and some of the best people,
Mm-hmm. And tell me about some of the good things you're doing because, Chango has been speaking at different high schools, warning against doing drugs, different organizations like YAP and other places to try to kind of like make up for his sins and pay it forward.
Yeah, I was working in Harlem for a while with SCAN in the Wagner houses. I had 22 kids on the caseload. I think 16 or 17 of them had open gun cases. 2 of them had 3 open gun cases each. Mm-hmm. All of them were under the age of 17. One of them was murdered. So you kind of like in a tornado, reliving some of your life in a much unsophisticated way because all these kids were just carrying around guns and shooting at each other under different gang rules, But what we were doing it for profit. I've never really committed a crime that I know of that didn't involve a profit because I've only thought of crime for a profit. So these kids, I see them kind of like throwing their life away before they're even 16 because a gun charge is a trophy for any police officer out here. Mm-hmm. And they're looking for that.
Okay, well, just to wrap it up, because I want to have time for a few questions from everyone out there. Just in wrapping up this conversation, just bringing it full circle about running your business like a drug kingpin, what would you suggest to anybody out there who wants to start a business, a legit business, whether it's sneakers or hats or beauty products or whatever? What would you suggest, because of your success? Let me just say that it was not a legit, it was, an illegal business, but he was running $5 million a year in crack in the 90s. So like, you did have some structure, you did have, a lot of people working for you at the time. What are some of your suggestions to people out there looking to start a new business?
Well, to start it, a lot of people have ideas, but they never leave their mind or their heart. So start whatever you're thinking about and don't be afraid to fail 20 times. We didn't just start making money immediately. It took time and drama and problems and negotiating until we got it going. And that's the same thing with any business. You have to be willing to fight, you know. But
You have to be willing to lose, right?
you have to be willing to lose in the beginning in order to gain later. And as I said earlier, that's a skill or a philosophy or a strategy that Jeff Bezos uses now. We were using that back then with a different product. But everything is product. We buy illegal products every day legally.
Okay, so just the last question before we get to questions out there. Why do you think the drug business is still such a big business? Like, why do you think that?
Because the government is making a hell of a profit.
Okay.
That's what I think with my
And why do you
experience.
think people are so desperate for drugs these days? Street
Well,
drugs?
people being desperate for drugs is nothing new. Because people been doing drugs since Mr. Magoo.
Okay, well, when did Mr. Magoo come into power? I don't really, what, the 60s, 50s, 40s?
Always. There's always been drugs. It's always been drugs.
But do you think it's worse than ever, or do you think it was worse when you were in the game?
I think people say it's worse now, honestly, and no offense, because more of white America is suffering from it with the opiate addiction. So they're just going through the same kind of shit that we went through with crack. The only difference is it's a different substance.
You know what? While you say that, you reminded me of something we were talking about earlier. Chango had mentioned to me that, with everything going on with the pandemic and racism today, he'd said that racism is actually worse in prison. So I just thought, that's an interesting perspective. I've never really known much about it, and I wanted to get his opinion on that. So you want to expand on that just really quickly, and then I'll go to questions. Sorry.
Sure, there definitely is not any social or platform of any kind in prison. So there's nobody holding up a camera when a guard is beating you. And then it's never one of them, it's two or three of them, and they're always these 7-foot-tall hillbillies, and they're all related to each other with this sensual relationships that they be having. So you have no wins, and everybody that works in the correctional facility lives in the same town, so they all cover for each other. So you get an ass whooping by the guard, and by the time they get you to the nurse, she'll write that you fell down the steps and your injuries are consistent with that. And then if you're in too tough a shape, they transfer you to another facility, and when you get there, you have another transfer order waiting for you to get to another facility. By the time you get to the fourth facility and your family catches up to you, you don't have any more lumps or black eyes. So it's all controlled. So there's nobody policing them in there.
Well, you know what? 2020, I think, is a year of a wake-up call for everything. And I truly hope that the racism gets better in our country, away.
How about no racism?
No racism, and also nothing in the prison system as well. So I just want to get a couple questions really quick. Daniel, do you have a couple questions for me? Thank you, everybody, for watching. I have 3 questions left, and if you have any questions for myself or Chango, just DM us at miss.alixx.
DM her.
Okay, DM me. I'm in charge. Okay, so let's see. First question. Okay, it's for Chango. Rehabilitation. When did you feel like you became rehabilitated, and how did that come about for you?
Well, I'm still rehabilitated myself, but rehabilitation is a state of mind, according to me. And but I also believe I started to rehabilitate, at least in thinking, before I got kidnapped by the NYPD back in '94.
Okay.
Because I officially left the game and I got arrested after leaving the game. Get it?
Okay.
And so to me, when I sit back and think I could go back to the street and realize that I looked for an exit before I got arrested, it was too late. But that carried me on the inside. And so while on the inside, I did things so I could be consistent with that change as opposed to continuing with the same mentality, the gangster mentality.
Right. Okay. Was there any programs in prison or anything that helped you?
Programs that helped me. Well, I started working for the YAP organization in prison, but that was maybe when I had 4 years left out of my bid. The programs that they offer in correctional facilities are also a scam and a straight bullshit. So you don't really get nothing out of it.
All right, next question. Okay.
Listen, you want the truth or not?
I want the
unfiltered
truth.
reality.
No, this is unfiltered reality.
Alrighty
Unfiltered
now.
reality from my living
Alrighty.
room on a Friday. Okay, where's my cocktail? All right, anyway. This is for me. Okay, so how did you meet Chango and how did you get involved in developing his film?
I'll answer. At Sin City. We met at Sin City.
No, we didn't meet at Sin City. This guy. Okay, so I volunteer at The Door, which is the largest, it's like a homeless intake and at-risk youth center in New York City. And one of my students knew that the film that I'm working on also, called Love Music Shelter, which is a scripted musical about a homeless mom and her daughter in the city, knew that homelessness is like very dear to my heart. And he had said that Chango had a story for me, and then I said, I'll read the script, sure. So his manager, Greg, sent me the script, we met for coffee, and I felt like it was a really compelling story that I wanted to tell. And so that's how I met Chango. Let's see, third question, okay. Oh, this is really interesting. Chango, where and when did you write your script, Chango?
In Clinton, alongside of Troy Ortega, the co-author.
Okay.
And that was a mission because we had to do it in a covert way, which required him typing quietly in his cell and tying the 2 or 3 pages that he wrote that night or typed up, swing it down the tier, and it goes down into the other gallery, and I have to fish it inside to my cell with a little broom and untie it and read it, correct it, send it back up, be looking out with a mirror so the police don't catch it. So that was a mission, but we got it done, and it was fun to process.
Yeah.
It was actually fun. Our cells would get raided because people would drop slips and inform the correction officers that we were up to something and they didn't know what it was. And so we used to keep the script in the law library. And some
Okay,
old law
so you
books.
hid it in the law library?
Daily, yeah. When
Daily.
it's not being worked on, it gets, there's no way to save it. There is no printer or files. It's just a typewriter.
Yeah.
So we had to get it out of ourselves in order to preserve
Well, that's a
it.
lot of dedication to try to do that
pay
in
off.
prison.
We're about to make a movie.
Yeah. No, so I guess in closing, I just want to tell you guys we're really happy that you could spend your Friday afternoon with us. And Chango and I are really excited about our feature film, Chango, and about a new documentary. And of course, about the podcast, Unfiltered Reality, hosted by Chango, that's available on Spotify, coming up on Pandora, iHeart, Google Play. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with us. I hope you learned a little bit about Chango's life and how to run your business like a drug kingpin. I'm Alixx Shotland, and this is my friend Chango. And if you have any questions for us, as he said, you could just DM me.
Shout out to Infomind, shout out to Gully TV, shout out to For the Culture, Queens Flip, Yellow Films, shout out to the team, y'all know who y'all are, shout out to Tito, Free Tito, shout out to Movimiento Music, shout out to everybody that's involved in the project.
And shout out to Wendy and Lauren and Mike Manning. Peace to everybody.
If I forgot you, blame it on the Kush.
Thank you.